The land of Exonia. Our home. Not a perfect place by any measure, but for most of us, the only place we will ever know, and the only place we will ever have. Even after the Overlord took over, life could still be almost decent for common folk. I was born into war and misery, so all I ever learned was to cause misery. I took what I could, and I never looked back. Until one day. The damage I caused to a small town of Grendel was too much to ignore. In my greed and my desperation, I struck a deal with the Bandit King, the sheriff of the West. And he took everything, from valuables to people's lives. In that burning town, I saw what I had become. Broken and beaten, I traveled to Queen's Rest, the final place of safety for the decent people. I was taking myself in to be punished and to live and die in regret. But instead of putting shackles on my hands, she put a sword in my hand. You want to make things right? Then go and make things right. Captain Garmin of the Old Guard taught me how to use a blade, taught me how to fight. I am ready now, and I will not rest, not until I have paid for my mistakes, not until I kill the Overlord. Moro moro, and welcome to Culinary Role-Playing, and my new series, Kill the Overlord, Pathfinder 2nd edition solo adventure. I'm so surprised that I'm saying that out loud. So, if you don't know what Pathfinder is, it is basically the world's second most famous fantasy TTRPG. Pathfinder has been praised by its very deep, complex mechanics, intense combats, and basically almost endless player customization, and also for really good GM support. Now, why you wouldn't normally see Pathfinder played in a solo setting is probably because the game is so dense. And the second thing is, most of solo roleplays emphasize on improvisation. And one of the common conceptions is that Pathfinder is a really difficult system to improvise in, to have like these spontaneous adventures because of balance. The game has been balanced very tightly. The game goes from levels 1 to 20, and the game is balanced in a way that during that adventure, players will come across opponents that are appropriate to that specific level. One of the strong suits in solo role-playing is that you don't know as a GM and as a player what will come next. But I think I have cracked the code how to play solo Pathfinder. We will embark on an adventure as a Daisy Hollowoak. Daisy Hollowoak was this washed up bandit who was always just working for the highest bidder and only taking care of herself. She didn't care who she hurt, and she frankly didn't trust anyone. But that all changed when the Bandit King made her an offer to basically destroy an innocent town in the west area of Exonia. And after seeing this whole town burn because of her actions, she had enough. She wanted to make a change. So she traveled to Queen's Rest, which is basically like the safe haven to all the decent people that are left in the west of Exonia. To redeem herself, she has only one mission: to kill the Overlord and his lackeys in order to save the whole of Exonia. So she is aiming to become a hero. So in this first season of Kill the Overlord, we will hopefully take down the Bandit King of the West. So how I'm planning to make this work in solo is that I have bounded now the west of Exonia to levels 1 to 5. So in order for us to defeat the Bandit King, we need to become stronger, we need to probably find some allies, and maybe even find some ancient artifacts that could help us in our mission. So yeah, I'm finding different locations to levels, and that way we can have this kind of open world-ish adventure without any stress about like, okay, now there's gonna be an enemy that we just simply cannot defeat. So here are some custom rules that I'm planning to implement for this adventure. Rule number 1, because we are going on this adventure alone and we are playing as a fighter, so healing might not be so easily to be gained. That's why I will be using stamina rules from the game mastery guide. I think this will help us to get back into the saddle more easily, and we are not completely screwed when there are no healing available for us. And that will also give us a little bit more like the heroic feeling for this adventure, especially if we want to most of the time just venture forward alone. And I know Game Mastery Guide also adds this resolve mechanic that you have like a certain amount of times that you can do different actions regarding to stamina. But I think that's a little bit too complicated for me, so there are 2 actions I can take during the day, and both of them I can take only once. And one of them is a take breather, which means I will use 10 minutes and regain all of my stamina. And the other one I will just call inner resolve, which is basically that we can use an action even if we are in combat, and it's an instant action that will give us half of our stamina back. So yeah, both of those actions we can use only once per day. The third custom rule that we will use is usage die, which many other games use, and I think that's really good. Instead of having like a hard numbers of different things, we have a die sizes. If we would have like a full stack, that would be D12, and if we have like only a little bit of rations left, that would be D6. So it's basically like a dice chain. So every time during combat, if I use arrows, or every time I will use a torch, I will roll the dice that is the current amount of the thing I'm using. If I have a D8 amount of torch, I would roll a D8. And whenever I will roll 1 or 2 from that dice, the die size will go down by 1 until you have a D6 left, and then when you roll 1 or 2, you just run out of that thing. Rule number 4 that I will be using, that's also from the Game Mastery Guide, automatic bonus progression, which means that Pathfinder 2 has been balanced in an idea that people will get more magic items, and especially like martial classes, that they will get certain types of upgrades during certain levels. So I didn't want to pressure myself to have this kind of situation that I will need to like add some magic items in. I just want to roll some random dice to be surprised, so it's easier just to add that in, and all the magical items that we will find will just have like cool effects. I think that's really nice that you can do that. Custom rule number 5, we will start with 2 hero points instead of 1, and I don't want to be like this kind of hero point police for myself to like determine when I will get hero points and when will I not get hero points. So instead, whenever we roll a natural 1 and we accept the result, whatever may come out of it, then we will get 1 hero point. We will use XP in this adventure, and we will use the fast leveling up system, which means we only need 800 XP per level. Whenever we discover a new location in map, that will give us 50 XP. Whenever we end a session and we are still alive, that will give us 100 XP. Basic quest will give us 50 XP. Medium quest will give us 100 XP, and clearing like this huge milestone huge quest that will give us 200 XP. Clearing encounters that will give us the normal amount of XP. And one of the custom rules is that in the world of Exonia, there are only 5 ancestries. Humans, Koran, Azargeti, Strix, and Vanara. And each of the regions in Exonia is mostly dominated by one of the ancestries. And we will start from the west, which is majorly human-centric area. There are other ancestries around, but basically the ancestries are most of the time living by themselves. Usually the main reason is that these different ancestries have very different ways of living. Like for example, Strix have wings, so all of the cities are like built top of mountains and stuff, so it's really difficult for the non-flying ancestries to try to settle in those communities, but you know, it is possible still. And rule number 10, because this is very much still like a prototype for me as well. This is first time for me playing Pathfinder solo, like in this kind of open world setting. I can change the custom rules and I can even bring up new rules, but only after a session. So no tweaking during the session. Okay, if something is really game breaking, then I will probably change it on the fly, but on a base level we will not mess with the system until after the session. And a little disclaimer before we start, I am not a Pathfinder 2 professional. I will make mistakes. I have played Pathfinder a little bit, but only in low levels, and I have definitely not tried to do this kind of epic open world hex crawl adventure with Pathfinder 2. I'm learning as we are going, like we are learning together here. If you noticed me to make like some major mistakes about the rules, please let me know down in the comments. I will definitely read them, and I would love to learn from you as well. The collective hours you people have probably played this game is huge, so there is so much experience that I can learn from. Okay, I think that's all for now. Let's go into the adventure. Our first session of Kill the Overlord. Morning comes to the west, and morning comes to Queen's Rest, where Daisy is already awake. The sun is just rising from the horizon, but she's really anxious. She's been restless, and she hasn't slept well last night. The first day she's ending her training. I think she's probably in her room just cleaning up her bastard sword, making sure the sword will serve her well during the adventure. She sheathes the sword and straps it on her back, backs her backs, and tries to make sure that she has everything she might need on the rope. And I think we have like basic equipment. We have bedroll, we have clothing, chainmail armor, and also we have the bastard sword, which is Daisy's like a most trusted weapon. That was the first weapon she was provided when she started her training in Queen's Rest. Queen's Rest is this kind of old, almost a ruin of a city. It is an old fortress that was destroyed during the war against the Overlord. And the gates are always open because they are broken. And by law, from the Overlord, the gates cannot be rebuilt. The gates need to be open all of the time. And like the biggest fortress and the castle itself on the hill is still like in complete ruin. But within the walls there are some simple wooden buildings. It's now in use of the people. So some rehabilitation is happening on Queen's Rest. And still, the walls provide protection. And I think the last guard, which was the queen's guardians during the time before the Overlord, is still habiting the destroyed fortress, now just living within the ruins. There are still some rooms, and especially like the spaces underneath the castle are still intact. I haven't still decided how fresh is this war that Overlord won. We are living in a world where Overlord rules with an iron fist all of the regions, and Overlord's lackeys are basically like, it has been divided into these 4 individuals who each rule a section of Exonia. It's fairly fresh. It's maybe the war ended basically like a 20 or 30 years ago. Enough time that some locations have been rebuilt a little bit, and people are still like trying to adjust themselves to this new world. With now fully equipped, with her packed pack, bastard sword strapped on her back, Daisy decides to set off. But not before she will go and say goodbyes to her captain. Basically her like master, kind of like a parent even. Is the captain human? During this adventure, I will use an oracle called One Page Solo Engine. It's really nice, simple, free oracle that you can use on different tabletop role-playing games and play games solo. So now let's ask the oracle. Is the Daisy's captain a human? And I would say this is likely outcome. I will roll black die and red die. The black die is the indication of the yes and no, and red die is the additional d6 that will tell us if it's a yes and yes but, or no and no but. Let's roll. So, yes and. Not only is the captain human, what is the and part? Yeah. Not only is her captain a human, but she's also a woman as well. So I would say her name is Captain Carmen. Yeah. And she will be Captain Garman with a G. Daisy has lived most of her life as an orphan, and that's why she had to steal in order for her to survive. She didn't know anything else until in her lowest point she met Garman, and Garman gave her a sword in her hand and taught her how to use it. So she feels eternal gratitude towards her. So I think she definitely, I think she will find Garman. Garman is the captain of the last guard, so she's really easily available to all the other peoples in the guard. Daisy approaches Garman. Okay, I'm ready. I will be off now. Before Daisy can even finish, Garman raises her hand. That's not necessary. You have made yourself ready. During your training, you never complained. You always were ready to help others. I just want to say that I'm proud of you already. And you are ready. Daisy is kind of taken back from this sudden, honest, encouraging words from Garman. I think they probably have not a cold relationship necessarily, but still like very, very strict. Well, it is a military, basically. So yeah, the relationship thus far has been very militaristic, but a deep understanding between both of them. And Daisy even dares to smile a little bit. They both share kind of this kind of like very formal, militaristic formal handshake. And Garmin just says to Daisy, "Good luck. May the Exonian star watch over you." A fire starts to burn in Daisy's eyes. And she says to Garmin, "I will not fail." "I know you won't. Take something to eat before you go." And from this intense moment, they both kind of like snap out of this intense moment for a second. And Daisy's like, "Oh, yeah, you're probably right. I will eat something. Yeah, thanks." She will leave Garmin to her duties and approach the kitchen. And fairly enough, I think she will manage to have something to eat from there. She will probably meet the cook, who is probably quite familiar with Daisy, and they have a small conversation about the journey ahead. The cook will probably ask some like, "If you go further away, please bring me some good spicy stuff. It would be really nice to have some variation with the food, right?" Daisy will probably just laugh and be like, "Yeah, sure. I'm not sure when I will come back next time, but I will promise to find you something. Gully." Okay. Gully is the name of the cook now. Daisy thanks for the food and then starts to approach the gates. The sun is rising from the horizon. The weather seems to be great for traveling. It is a great day to start an adventure. How this system will work is each day Daisy can travel one hex at a time, and every time we travel to a next location, I will draw a card from this deck. This is a basic 52 card deck. All of the different cards are basically like a prompt to different events. It's not like an exact scenario what will happen, but for example, there are Hunted, or Overlord Strike Force, or a Specialist for Hire, or Eager Rookies, Nature's Gift. They are just like inspiring words for me to know like what we will come across during our adventure. And the different suits have different purpose. For example, the spades are basically the Overlord's lackeys and all the opposing forces. Diamonds are basically opportunities. They are not necessarily like a positive or allied forces, but they can become one, or they are places of interest, like ruins or something like that. Then we have hearts, which are basically allies. These are the positive forces and all the possible allies. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will be our allies like at that moment, but it's like all the good people in the world. And then we have clubs, which is basically obstacles. They are not directly working under Overlord's rule, but these can be like nature hazards, wandering monsters, everything that is not out there directly to get us, but might become a problem. And the bigger the card is, the bigger the problem is. So from 2 to 8, it's kind of like a basic problems, and then from 9 to 13, so from 9 to King, they are major problems. And then the ace will be the Bandit King Slayer. Just to balance things out, for the first 3 sessions, I will pull out all the major cards, and after the 3rd session is over, I will add in the rest of the cards. And once we have used the card, that's it. Then we will pull until there is no cards to pull from the deck, or we have achieved our goal in this region. So let's pull out all the big cards for now. We need to travel around the west of Exonia and gather some resources, gather some allies, and hopefully find some strength and experience that can help us to come up with a plan how we can dethrone Bandit King of the West. Bandit King basically works as the sheriff of the West, if you may. His forces travel around the whole west area of Exonia and just collects taxes from all of the little towns and communities that we have here on the west. And basically he's just reporting to Overlord to say like, yeah, there's no rebellions brewing, everything is fine. And while he does that, he also collects some taxes for himself. So basically just roams around the west and takes whatever he places to himself and his troops. What we know about Bandit King is quite little actually. He rarely comes into the town to collect the resources for himself. He always sends his lackeys to do his bidding. But what we do know is that he has a hidden base somewhere here in the west of Exonia. The one legend that troubles Daisy is that how he got to power is the Bandit King struck a deal with the cult of a basilisk mother, which is said that this cult is working with this kind of old and ancient basilisk, the basilisk mother Slash. So hopefully those are just legends, but that's definitely something that we need to be careful with. So Daisy will leave from the Queen's Rest. What is the first direction that we want to take? Do we first want to check the highlands, or do we want to go into the deep forests of west of Exodia, or do we even want to go into the marshlands? How about let's roll for it. Let's take a d4. If we get a 1, we will first explore the highlands. If we get a 2, we will explore the dark forests. If we get a 3, we will explore the long river that will continue into the north of Exodia, and also the marshlands. And if we get a 4, we will explore the coast and the southern forest that will also lead into the south of Exodia. We will still keep ourselves into the west, but there's still quite many locations we can pick from. So now let's roll. And that is a 4, which means we will first go down in the coast and start our adventure by exploring the southern forest of west of Exodia. Fair enough. So now here, for the first 3 sessions, we will not add those big cards in, and we only have the smaller ones. Okay, our first card. Let's go. 3 of Hearts. That's actually quite good. An ally card. But the first thing to come out of it. That's perfect. A helpful local. Wonderful. So while traveling to the south and just taking in the coast of west of Exodia, Daisy will meet a helpful local. Will this happen like right after they have left the Queen's Rest, or is this more like during the end of the day? Let's roll a dice. If it's 6, it's like very end of the traveling like day. And if it's a 1, it happens like almost immediately after. So then it can be an individual from Queen's Rest maybe. Let's roll. 5. Okay, so we are quite far away already. So let's say that we are over here, quite in the middle of the hex, and already moving next to the coast. This happens around the evening, when Daisy has had the full day of travel of the first day, and she's starts to be kind of tired and like, oh. And she just starts to like take off her like backpack and maybe get ready to maybe light up a fireplace. Light up a campfire, I mean. Now it's interesting to see who is this individual. We know it's a helpful local, so it will be an individual that is no threat to us. What does the one-page solo ending say about this NPC? Identity is mystic. Okay. Goal of this NPC is to learn. Social. Notable feature, new. Technical. So this person is probably some kind of very new cleric, some like clerical initiate. Attitude to PC is surprisingly lacking, and conversation this individual wants to have is community mystical. So this individual wants to talk about their church. So this means Daisy is starting the fire and finds a stone where to sit next to the fire, and just like winding down from the long day of travel. And from behind her, she can hear like this, "Greetings! Greetings, traveler! Hi? Hi? How can I help? My name is Marcus, and I would be glad to talk about my god." Yeah, I think Marcus is a missionary. Marcus is a clerical initiative on a journey, on a learning journey, so probably trying to become an official cleric, priest, whatever the title is in their religion. And now he's just traveling around and spreading the word of his god. So now we need a god, I think. I know Pathfinder has a bunch of different gods, but I would probably want to create my own. I'm getting this vibe of like fire and rebirth. Would this guy just worship Phoenix? Yeah, why not? This guy worships Phoenix. Phoenix is like a legendary god bird in this Exodian universe. And Daisy is first like taken back a little bit, like, I know Phoenix, what of it? Oh, you know about the Phoenix? Great, this will make this so much easier. We got the attitude towards NPC like surprisingly lacking, but in this context I think it just means that Marcus doesn't really care about Daisy. He cares about his god, and that he can preach the word of the Phoenix. He doesn't actually think to have like an actual conversation with Daisy. So I would say for the next hour, I think Marcus will just keep yapping next to Daisy, and Daisy will just contemplate on the fire. And after an hour, when Daisy has also eaten something, I think she will probably try to share some of her rations with Marcus. Are you hungry? Marcus is still talking like. And the greatest thing I love about Phoenix is that when the Phoenix dies, it actually doesn't die, but it reborns. So it gives us some food. Oh yeah, sure, I can take a little bit. That's most kind of you. Thank you. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. My name is Daisy. Oh, I'm Marcus. Nice to meet you too. Daisy had like D10 worth of rations when she left. So I will now roll the dice twice because she shared her food with Marcus. 2. So now we are at D8. And 1. Now we are at D6. Oh no. While she was sharing the food with Marcus, she didn't realize that she didn't have that much, thinking to herself like, oh, that this was a bad decision. Like, I'm already almost burned out all of my food already. Daisy tries to get a word in. Marcus, sorry, do you happen to know any hunting grounds? Any towns nearby or anything like that? I'm running out of my rations. The question is, does Marcus know? I will just ask the Oracle for this, and I would say it's 50-50. Yes, Marcus knows either a hunting ground or town. I think Marcus is in the beginning of his journey, and he tells Daisy about the monastery Marcus is from. And it's somewhere here in these 6 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I will again roll a dice from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and see in which hex the monastery is located. 3. 1, 2, 3. So here I will actually add a marker in there for now. So we know somewhere there is a monastery. Yeah, my monastery is nearby. If you are feeling that you don't have enough rations, and they have quite good stocks, and I think that's maybe the extent of meaningful conversations Daisy can have with Marcus in this evening. I don't think Daisy will suggest any like watch turns or anything like that. She doesn't really trust Marcus. He sounds nice, decent person, but like, yeah. So she tries her best to hide herself. She tries to find this kind of location out of the view. So she like tries to find this kind of gap in the ground, or tries to like find a place between rocks where she could probably sleep comfortably. Will the Marcus stay, or will Marcus like keep going? 50-50. Answer was yes and. Yes and. What is the and part? I think Marcus will tag along. Like, he sees what Daisy is doing, and he's like, oh, that looks quite clever. Can I come with you? And Daisy's like, okay, maybe it's better to try to work together. Daisy will answer like, fine. Very grudgingly, but she will help also Marcus to try to find a good spot where to rest out for the night. Away from the campfire, they will extinguish the campfire and then move away from the smoke. So they will probably try to do the hide action or conceal action, I think, if we are going according to the rules. Which is really good. Like, we don't have to roll anything right now. We will roll when somebody is trying to find them. If somebody is trying to find them. They will rest down for the evening. And now, I think the most important question, is there something in the evening that will try to get them? And this is coastline, fairly close to town. I will roll different die depending on the situation, how I feel like how safe the location is. I roll the encounter die during the night, and if it's like the biggest number, so if I roll a d6 and it's a 6, if I roll a d8 it's an 8, if I roll a d10 it's a 10, and if I ever roll that highest number, that means there is some kind of encounter during the night. And I think this location is a D10, so it's fairly close to Queen's Rest. It's on an open coastal area. There's not like any dangers or enemies nearby that we know of, so I will roll a D10 to see if there are any encounters during the night. 5. So that means first night they both have a good night's rest. In the morning, Daisy will thank Marcus and just say to Marcus, good luck with your journey, and hopefully you find many people who are as passionate about the Phoenix as you are. So where are you heading now? I think Marcus is just heading to the Queen's Rest. I'm actually on my way to the Queen's Rest. I heard that there are many desperate and sad people over there that will need the protection of the flames of the Phoenix. And yeah, I think they were going to the opposite direction, so Daisy will continue to travel now next into the location of the monastery, because we will need some more rations now, because we gave almost everything we got to Marcus. Let's pull another card. 8 of Hearts. Wonderful. It's so fun when all the bad cards will come. When all the bad cards will come one by one, back to back. Then it's gonna be really fun. There we go. I reshuffled the deck a little bit. But we are getting this wholesome beginning. That's really nice. Okay. Well... well, I don't... Yeah, we probably do not need to roll like at what point of this day of travel we will come across this place of healing. So we go into the monastery. And now we know there is a Monastery of Phoenix in this hex. When Daisy arrives, the first thing she can really distinguish from the place is the massive brazier in the middle of like the whole monastery. Great flame that she figured that if she would have traveled during the night, it's like this kind of beacon of hope and rest that will guide the people who wants to be safe and secure. Basically like a ground lighthouse in a sense, but it's not like a lighthouse, it's just a brazier, but still very prominent and quite beautiful. The huge flames are nice and beautiful even during the day. And I think when she arrives to the monastery, there is like a small wall around the place for protection, but the doors are open. She will be welcomed in. She tries to find someone who looks like they are running this place. I think she finds someone. Good day to you. My name is Rona. How can I help you, my child? Good day to you as well. My name is Daisy. Rona, was it? Yes. I hail from the Queen's Rest, and I'm on a warrior's quest, if you may. And I'm already running out of rations because I came across a surprise company last night during my travels. His name was Marcus. Yes, we know Marcus, and we love Marcus. He's one of our dearest childs. Let me guess. He talks your ear off how he loves the Phoenix. And Daisy kind of maybe chuckles a little bit. That sounds like Marcus. Is there anything you would require that would need to be done right now? Is there something I could do for you? There is always something that needs to be done in a monastery. Let's create some kind of mission. What is it that is troubling monastery right now? I think Reno gestures to Daisy, and Daisy gets pulled into this kind of side alley of the monastery. They are like inside the walls of the monastery. They are like individual, like smaller buildings, and in the middle of everything is the huge brazier. So in this kind of smaller alleyway, Reno speaks again. I think you might be able to help us, my child. For the recent days, we have seen really weird behavior from the Bandit King's troops. Daisy leans forward and is like, yes, I'm listening. The Bandit King's troops have made a camp south of the monastery. And for some reason during the night, they get really active. We can see the torchlights from the distance, and there are many torchlights that go around the premise. And what is the really interesting part is that almost every night someone comes from that camp to be patched up. The Bandit King's troops have these really weird wounds. Is it something basilisk related? It's not that likely. But what kind of wounds are they? How it looks. Mundane, mystical. Mundane. Mystical mundane would be... Yeah. It seems like the wounds have come from a magical traps. So it seems like to me they are exploring a location or a place where they are definitely not welcome. What I would want you to do, Daisy, is that if you would take a look around and see what are they doing. So now Reno has given Daisy a possible quest. Will Daisy accept this? She is also really interested in knowing what the bandits are up to. I promise you to take up on this quest and find out what these Bandit King troops are after. I do not seek for gold, but I do seek support and kinship. I think there are some kind of kinship, but how big of a kinship? And I think we can actually use the Pathfinder's mechanics for this. We can make an impression check for Daisy in this situation, because these are two unknown people to each other. So we can see like, where are we standing right now? If we succeed, we will be probably on a friendly zone. If we fail this check, we are somewhere indifferent. And if we even help in this quest, we might even get Reno and the Monastery of Phoenix to be helpful towards us. So let's make our first roll of the game. Interesting. Our diplomacy is 0. And this would be against the will DC of the target, modified by any circumstance the GM sees fit. I will just rule that this is DC 12 right now, because we are on a good basis, we are helpful, but we are also talking about things that might be considered rebellious against the Overlord, so each of the parties have to like tread very carefully. So I would say this is a DC 12 check and we get absolutely nothing for this. Our charisma modifier is 0 and we don't have any skill on diplomacy, so let's see how this goes. It's exactly 12. There you go. Exactly 12. So we succeed. So definitely I would say our standing right now is friendly. And Reno sees the honesty in Daisy's eyes. I think Reno will nod a little bit, as an understanding that Daisy is to be trusted. She strikes as a person who gets things done. Reno gets closer to Daisy and says, Daisy, was it? Yes. Daisy, if you do this for the monastery, I promise that the Monastery of Phoenix will be at your ally and, to an extent, at your disposal. Daisy reaches out her hand, and they both shake hands. The journey here was uneventful, so we have a little bit time before the night is upon us, and probably the light show from Bandit King's people will start again. So I would say I will give us 1 dice up of rations. So now we have a d8 of rations. Not too much, because we don't want to intrude right now. We still have to hold our end of the bargain. Yeah, I think Daisy will eat something while she's there. She probably asks from Reno again, like, which direction did you see those lights? Daisy is led through this narrow corridors of the monastery, and they are taking steps up to the walls of the monastery, where there are few guards with a very basic equipment. As a professional fighter, Daisy can see that these people are not like high grade fighters. They are probably volunteers and just individuals who have been given a spear and maybe a crossbow to keep watch. So definitely not like a professional guards or anything like that. All the biggest fighters are probably dead in all over west of Exonia anyway. On top of the wall, Reno just points to a direction where there is like this kind of small cluster of trees. I have seen most of them camp out in there. The torches have been going on both of the sides of this tree area over here, but most of the torches have been going into that cluster of rocks over there. And Reno shows like this kind of big boulders that looks like almost like a hill of stones. These boulders are really big. They are like a giant would have problem lifting them, so they are big rocks. Daisy looks carefully, nods, and says to the guards and to Reno, "Thank you. I think this is enough for now. I should probably get going." Reno just answers to this. Yes, of course, but my child, do be careful." And she heads downstairs and starts to head to the direction of the tree cluster and this big rock formation. So the rock formation is in the same area as the monastery, so we are not like changing the hex. So somewhere here we can have maybe some kind of, let's put this oh, that's a big cluster of trees. Let's just put it here for now. So now we need to make some decisions. The first decision is that should we try to first sneak into the trees, or should we try to like sneak straight into the cluster of rocks? Because like the cluster of rocks was the actual place where weird things were happening. So there might be something crazy waiting for us if we go there beforehand. I would still say it's much more interesting to go into the location straight away. So yeah, let's go there. And Daisy will try her best to sneak in. I think we have a chainmail, so it is noisy. So it will give us armor penalty is -2, but we still have +3 because we are actually trained at sneaking. Daisy has been really sneaky devil in her past, so we still have +3, which is okay. So we are sneaking into the location of the rock formation. To make this interesting and to know what there is, I will actually use one-page solo engine and create us a dungeon room. Dungeon room will indicate us if there are any hostile enemies, if there is something interesting around, and also it tells us like the overall function of the place. It would also provide us like the number of additional exits, but we don't need that information right now. But definitely let's create a dungeon room to see what awaits us in that rock cluster. It is a location for a specialized purpose. That makes sense. There is an obstacle that blocks the way. And there is a rare or special item. Okay, so there are no enemies around. So Daisy is sneaking into this rock formation. And right now there is no one in there. She tries to like have a look around but what she can see built into like underneath the rocks are like in this kind of tilted formation, and they have been like it looks like the rocks have been clustered together to create this kind of like a naturalistic hut from the stones. I think she tries to like go around, and she carefully like looks from behind the stones, and in the center she can barely still see that the sun is going down quickly. It is twilight right now. I think she sees some kind of altar in the middle of this rock formation with a natural roof where there is a small hole in the ceiling that can still bring a little light in. And there is a rare or special item as well. I think it has something to do with the ritual. First thing that comes to mind is some kind of ceremonial knife. Let's ask one generic generator for this item. What does it do? Create social. How it looks? Dignified. Social. How significant? Less than expected. Okay, so I think it's kind of small object. It is rare or special, so it's something that not everyone has. But its significance to this location is less than expected, so it's something that is not directly relating to this ritual circle, but it's still rare and special. It's very dignified, and it's something that creates. I have an idea what it is, but Daisy does not yet know what it is. So I will actually make a check to see if she can recognize the item. It looks like a round gem with golden metal casing surrounding it. So it basically looks almost like a jewelry. Daisy can clearly see that it's not just for decoration. It definitely looks magical. It looks like a magical focus. But can she actually know what it actually does? That we can check for Arcana. Identify magic is a trained action, of course, so we cannot. Which makes sense. We are a fighter. We hit things. We don't know stuff. So yeah, she has no idea what the magical item does, but she now has it anyway. I will say that because it was an object that wasn't related to this actual ritual, it just looks like it's like in the side of the whole ritual circle. So Daisy crouches down and she picks up the stone and is like, oh, interesting. It definitely looks like magical, but I have no idea what it does. Well, and she pockets the item, and I will actually write it down so I don't I don't forget. Now we have a strange magical stone. So I had an idea what it is, but I will now leave it. But I just wrote down the create part, and now we just let it be, and when it's relevant again we will circle back to like what the item does. Right now it does nothing for us, so it's no need for us to determine what it does. I think now for the rest of the time when she's here, she inspects the circle a little bit. I think she looks for any traces of what the people have been doing here. Does she see any blood in here? Let's ask the oracles. Does she see any blood in this area, like dried blood or even fresh blood? I would say this is 50-50, so 4 up it's a yes, there is some kind of blood. 2 and 5, that means no, there is no blood or anything that would indicate those weird wounds that these Bandit King's troops had been given. I probably need to stay here and lay low. I have to see what they are doing in here. She just tries to hunker down and find a nice place where she could hide. I think we have 2 options. She could climb up and see everything happening from the hole, or she might find a smaller stone inside the place where she could like hunker down and probably check out the ritual. For the sake of everything, I say she finds some kind of location where she can like hunker down and see this thing unfold. Some time passes and it's starting to be quite late, but then Daisy can see a light. A red flickering light in the side of the stone walls. It's torchlight and it's becoming brighter and brighter. So she realizes that the Bandit King's troops are coming. They come inside the circle and they make a ring around the altar. What is their aim in here? I have to ask the oracles what they are looking, what is their goal? Harm and rumors. Harm unique rumors. They want to harm unique rumors. Harming rumors would be the same as to discover the truth, or what would it mean in this context? What we know already. We know that they are having a strange rituals in here. Now, definitely we know that. We know that they have been doing this for many nights, and we know that whatever they are doing here is harming them. Yes, okay. One of these Bandit King's troops takes a step forward to address everyone else in there. And I would say there is kind of like, there are people in these kind of weird robes that, will Daisy recognize these robes? I would say she does. These are the robes of the Basilisk Mother. So these are members of Basilisk Mother's cult. And the person addressing the rest of the group is saying that, first of all, I would like to thank you, all of you, for your bravery and for your righteous soul. We are completing an important mission to the Basilisk Mother. We have all heard the rumors that this dungeon may hold a weapon that can be used against our dearest mother, no matter how long it takes, how many of us this place needs to devour. We need to search every inch of this dungeon to be clear that there is no direct threat for our dearest mother. This is great news. This is wonderful news for Daisy. Daisy thinks for herself that if she could be fast enough, if she could possibly sneak in with the rest of the basilisk cult. She might be able to obtain this weapon, this rumored weapon that could be used against the basilisk mother. So the ritual starts. There are around 6 people around the circle, and maybe there are 4 more, so 10 people overall. So we really need to keep hidden. We can't take out 10 people. There are 6 people around the circle, and then there are like 4 more like traditional like Bandit King's troops with like a leather armor and maybe a short sword, and some of them probably have like a bow and arrow. The 6 cultists, all of them take a dagger in their hand. They make a cut on their arm and starts to just drop blood into the stone circle, like heavy drops of blood from 6 different points of the circle. And the moon rises up above them into the position. The moonlight just comes through this natural hole that Daisy saw earlier. The moonlight comes in and it starts to reflect onto the circle and onto the blood, and the blood just starts to slither into the center of the circle, and a stone staircase opens and continues downwards into the abyss. When the stairs have fully emerged and the sound of grinding stone has stopped, all the cultists probably venture down into the catacombs, into the dungeons. And maybe 2 of the gods follow these cultists downstairs, while 2 of them remain upstairs to keep watch. Will Daisy try to take out 2 of these guards right now when she has the upper hand? Because she might be able to sneak in while the guards are not watching, but that would mean that she needs to also be able to come out of the dungeon quietly. There might be another exit, we don't know, but it's not safe to assume that there would be another exit. It's now or never. I should probably take out these 2 before I venture forward. A little time has passed, and she has seen like cultists started to light their torches, and the gods already had their torches lit, and they ventured downward. And Daisy waited until she couldn't see the light from the dungeon anymore, that they had gone so far that she couldn't hear the steps, and it has been quiet for like maybe a minute. And these 2 guards are probably just watching. How many exits are there? Like, I think because it's this kind of rock formation that has this natural ceiling, there are at least like 2 or 3 exits. Let's just say there are 2 exits, and the both gods are basically like, they are strolling around, but they are mostly more focused on watching those 2 exits. Daisy will carefully unsheath her bastard sword from behind her back. I think she will also leave her backpack in here inside the hiding place, that it's not gonna be in her way while fighting. And she tries to find a perfect moment to sneak close enough to one of those guards to get like a good old surprise attack in. I think we are gonna go into our first combat. I think theater of the mind will work in this combat. I know you can roll initiative in many different ways. Should I just resolute the initiative with sneaking? That's definitely something I should probably do. I know we get penalty from our armor. I found these 2 bandit disciple creatures, which are -1 creatures against us. Now, I still might do this the wrong way, but you can tell me in the comments how should I have done it correctly. But I think we will first roll initiative to all the characters, Bandit 1 and Bandit 2, so we can add them into the initiation with us. Now we will use our sneak as an initiative, and these two will use their perception as initiative, and that will determine the situation on how, like, if they can see us or if they can't see us. But just by rolling, we will know that if they are like, oh, we heard something, you know? Okay, so let's roll first the checks for those two, so then we know. And they have perception of... They don't have anything for perception, so it's... And they have a wisdom of -1, so they have -1 to their initiative. Fair enough. I don't complain. So we have 18 and 11. And now we will roll our stealth. I will give us a little benefit. They are really not expecting anyone to be here. I will give us a situational +2 modifier for this roll. So we have a +5 now, because our stealth is +3. It would be more. We are trained, but we have chainmail, so that will... It's little. It's creating a little noise while we move. So let's see what's our initiative. That's 17 +5. So our initiative is actually 22. So we go first. She's probably waiting for the other guards to just come just in front of the boulder that she's hid behind. And then silent, sneaky steps. That is an action. Another action is that she will grab... I will say she has been grabbing the sword with her both hands, because she has had the time to prepare. So she's grabbing the sword with her 2 hands. She's sneaking, taking the sneak action so she can move half her movement right behind the person, and then just have a full swing into this unsuspecting individual. We will just take a basic swing with our sword. So I think that's like our to hit, which is +9, and at least there is a situational... This person is definitely flat-footed, which will give us +2. She's like taking full swing, and in that moment the person will, like, the both of them will realize that she is there. So our first attack. Oof, that's not good, but we have the +2, so that's a 6 from the roll. We have +9, +2, which is 11, so we have 17. And their AC is 15, so we just hit with 16. Perfect. So Daisy comes from behind, takes a full-on upward swing. This bandit will take the full hit, which is we are using Bastard Sword with 2 hands, which is D12 +4. So at least 5 damage. That's a 9. So that is 9 +4 is a 13 points of damage. And these bandits only have 8 HP. So the first bandit just is cleaved partially. Like, he doesn't have time to fully unsheath the scimitar, and the Bastard Sword comes from upward swing, almost splits the bandit in half, and the blade reaches into the heart, and the bandit is dead. And this just pushes the bandit out of her blade, and makes a demoralizing scream against this other bandit. Okay, well, let's first see how does this demoralizing scream work against the bandit. Bandit has a will of +2, so that's we need to beat 12, right? And our intimidation is +3. Again, we are trained with intimidation, so we have +3. So we have to beat 12. And that's a 17 +3, which is 20. So yeah, frighten 1 condition to the other bandit. And now it's the bandit's turn. Will the bandit try to run away from this place and go get help from somewhere else? Or will the bandit try to like run downstairs? 50-50. 5-2. That means a yes. It's full action from the mouth of the cave to trying to run. No, the bandit... Okay, the bandit will just jump down into the staircase because the bandit doesn't want to like go next to Daisy, so the bandit will just try to jump directly down. Let's make an acrobatics check for this bandit. Acrobatics +2. Okay, that's not too bad. And the difficulty, I would say, is... It's not too bad. I think 12 is... 12 is quite average, so let's see. 8. Bandit will jump down and come like in a really bad angle and starts to like tumble down the stairs. And let's say it's how much damage? That's at least 6 points, d6 of damage. The bandit takes 4 damage for going down the stairs, like tumbling down. And that's their full turn for now. Now we go back to Daisy, and Daisy's like, ah, shit! And she starts to run after this bandit. And I think she has enough movement if she uses 2 of her actions to dash behind the bandit, who is now laying down. And now Daisy just comes and tries to like kill the bandit on the spot. So when prone, you take -2 penalty to attacks. And so yeah, they are counted as flat-footed, so they have -2 on AC. So Daisy will just run behind the bandit and stab the bandit on the ground and trying to end this before it even starts. That's a 14. Oh, that's definitely enough. Is that even a crit? No, I don't think so. We get... So their AC right now is 13 because of the -2. And we have 14 plus 9 is 23. That's a crit. That's a crit in Pathfinder rules. So we do 2d12 damage. Poor fella. And it has... Yeah. We deal 5 damage on the base. Well, I wanna roll. Of course I wanna roll the damage. 1 and 2. Well, lucky for us, that is still enough damage, because the bandit has taken some damage already from the fall when the bandit has tumbled from the stairs. So Daisy just runs behind and quickly just stabs the second guard on the ground, and the situation is over. Daisy takes a moment and watches her surroundings and tries to like see if there was like additional guards around outside. It seems like everything is fine for now. She cleans her sword into her arm and sheaths her sword behind her, and she realizes that, oh, it's gonna be dark in there. And she goes upstairs. She goes back up. She drags the first god's body behind the stone that she was hiding behind. She takes a torch from her backpack and lights it with the flint and steel that she has. Okay, now it's time to plunge into the depths. And she starts to continue and get into the depths of this really surprising location that she was not expecting. And I think that is a perfect place for us to stop this first episode. Yeah, this is just the first episode, so I can't say anything definitively, but Pathfinder like feels really good to play solo. Just because you have so many good options in those skills that you don't have to make decisions for yourself, like what should I roll in this situation, because you have so many things that you can check. So it is really nice for soloist in that sense. It's hard to say about like the level balancing stuff and that, but I haven't felt like any restrictions yet, and we are just creating this story out of thin air. And I know I like to skip the part where I was like looking for the initiative rules and the stat blocks, but they are all online, and you can just like pick the stat block that fits your level and in that situation well, like really fast. I was like doing that maybe 15 minutes, so it wasn't like that big of extra step. I'm really excited about this solo episode. Hopefully you are too. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a subscribe so you don't miss out the next episode. We will definitely continue the adventures of Daisy together. But for now, moro moro, and I see you in the next episode.